All right, we are live once again. And bear with me, folks, we're going to get my Amazon stream going here. Okay, we are live now in both places. And today we are going to unbox and start playing with the HP Elite Folio. This is on loan from HP, and it looks like an interesting computer. And it's interesting on a couple of levels. One is what is powering this computer, which is an ARM processor. It's one of those Snapdragons. This is the CX. I'll pull up my specs here, and there's a lot interesting about this beyond what powers it. So let me pull up my notes on it here. The Elite Folio. So it's not inexpensive, so you'll see that when you click on the affiliate link there. But it can run for like 20 hours on a charge, or so they say. You can upgrade the storage on it. So there's actually a teardown video, and if you want to see that, I'll throw it in the YouTube chat. And it's interesting, like HP has been, if you go through this link I'm going to send you, HP has been putting up a lot of these teardown videos. And this makes life a lot easier for us reviewers, because if I don't have to take it apart to know what's upgradable, I can get my work done quicker. And I get the sense that, I know they've not been, there on right to repair, but they're now like releasing these very detailed videos, which I just put in the link, on taking it apart, what all the parts are, how to replace parts. I thought that was rather interesting there. So, just enjoying my Sumatra. That's the coffee of the day today. So we're just getting going here. And I'm going to say hello to some friends. I had a little bit of a, not a temper tantrum, but I had a bit of a terse response to the Verge's review of the Starlink, just because I think they were totally unfair to it. So that's up on the weekly wrap-up right now. The Bester 345 is here. Romeric is here, as usual. Joe is here, as usual. It's my afternoon crowd. And Connor, thank you. The price on this is about $1,800. Not cheap. Not cheap at all. So you could get, the MacBook Air with the M1 is less expensive. Mid Pro 3030 is here. And one thing I've got to look up is how to install the Windows Insider program, because in order to get the 64-bit x86 apps to run, you need to be running with the Insider build. So let me see what I have to do there. I'm pretty sure I opted my other account into this, but let me add my other one in here just to bear with me for 1 second. Then after I get us opted in, I will begin the process of getting this thing unboxed. And we're going to record an unboxing for the Extras channel, and then we'll start playing around with the computer once I get everything set up. So bear with me for 1 minute here. I think I need a haircut, don't I? Let's do a quick sign in here. And I just want to, I'm pretty sure I'm in the because I think I had put in my MacBook into the Insider program. Okay, thanks for registering. All right, so flight preparation. To install Windows 10 preview builds, you must be running a licensed version of Windows 10, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so I should now see that when I take it out of the box. Okay, so we're going to walk through the steps to do this, because I did register. Okay. All right, so we are good to go there, because that'll help with compatibility on this. So thank you, Bradley, for the kind words there. Much appreciated. Jennifer says $1,700. Yeah, I like to review the low-cost stuff. However, I'm telling you, this is actually, it's been interesting to see what's been going on economically. So there's a lot of things that are impacting my business right now. And what's odd is that I haven't had any real seasonality to the business over the last year because everybody's been inside, right? So what's happening is that there's an electronics shortage. So all the cheap stuff that I usually review is not cheap anymore and hard to find. So that's a problem. The second problem is that I've got nothing but PCs to review in my queue of things to do. So we're going to be a little PC heavy, I think, on the channel over the next couple of days, or weeks, because I think I have at least 5 different computers that are ready to be shot. And I just got in one 2 days ago. I'm getting another one in today, but they're all in like the mid to high end categories. So I'm trying really hard to get the low cost stuff, but there's just not a lot of low cost stuff. So I am dealing with just a lack of new things to look at because of all these electronic shortages. Bradley wants to know about the Inspiron. Those are good. Is that the Inspiron? Yeah. I think any of the major brands are really good. They all perform about the same. I looked at the XPS line, which is good. This one, I think, although it's expensive, this might be a really interesting computer because this is running with the ARM processor, and it is also, I got to pull the label off here. That's just my mailbox address, but it's running with the ARM processor, so it creates a very fun experiment thing because we can see what can run and what can't run on it. And I'm actually eager when we get the insider build going on this is to see how the games do, because you can run Intel software on ARM, and with the x64 emulation, you can do a lot of that stuff. So I am looking forward to that. Thomas Anfang, I saw you on, I don't know if you saw my note, but I saw that you were watching the NASA space flight live stream a little while ago of the Atlas V that they're launching there, right? So I've met Chris Gephardt on a number of occasions. He's one of my space buddies that I always say hello to when I'm down there. It looks like it launched, huh? So I just want to see if it, because I just tuned in and there was no rocket on the pad. Yeah, it went off. Oh, good. Okay, excellent. Yeah, Chris and those guys are great. And they did a meetup the last time I was down there. That was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping to get down to a launch soon, now that things are opening up again. I actually had indoor dining today for the first time. That was a new experience for me. I haven't eaten inside a restaurant since March of last year. So that was a big day for me. So if you're wondering how my day was, I went out to breakfast this morning, something I used to do all the time. And now I am not doing that as often. Connor wants to know, is it good for gaming? We will find out. We're gonna open this thing up soon, and we'll find out whether or not it is good for that. So I'm just going to get my recording here set up, and I'm going to start doing my unboxing video. And then we'll take it out of the box, we'll boot it up. We got to get the insider build installed on it. So I have my Ethernet adapter here so we can more quickly download those updates. And we'll go from there. Good stuff. Chanfei98 wants to know, oh my goodness, I loved For All Mankind. The second season was awesome. And you know what was awesome about the second season of For All Mankind? Is that it was like the version of space that I was sold as a kid in the 80s. Like, I wanted the space shuttle to go to the moon and like have moon bases and all this stuff. Like, that was what the space shuttle was like promised to us as kids as to what was going to happen. There was going to be passenger space shuttles and all this stuff. And then, of course, we had the Challenger tragedy, and none of that, development kind of continued. So the second season was great. The first season takes a while to get into it. I found it was kind of slow initially, and then it got really good. I think it's one of the best science fiction shows I've seen in the last 2 years or so. I'm really looking forward to the next season because it's in the 90s, which is one of my favorite decades, if it's not evident already. So good stuff. Yeah, I'm going to try to get down. It's funny. The Starship launches are so heavily covered, but I think I'm going to try to get down there anyhow. Or over, I should say, from here to there, because I think it'd just be fun to experience that. And hopefully it doesn't explode and hurt me. Harry is here. Good day to you. DL wants to know the material. I'm pretty sure I have the material here. There's a vegan leather on it. I don't know the exact material. I will find out when we open it up. But there is vegan leather. Vegan leather, by the way, is plastic. So if you ever see someone say it's got vegan leather, it means that it's the skin of the naga hide, as we used to say. Dogman went to Subway with his aunt and haven't had, yeah, it's great to get back together with people. I had breakfast. I have a friend of mine, retired guy in town who I have breakfast with on a regular basis. We were meeting up outdoor dining last spring and summer, but we hadn't gotten together since the fall, so it was good to catch up. Steven's eating a late lunch from the Tesla. Hopefully you're not driving, Steven. Steven's around the corner from me. We should all have a Let's Meet Steven Day, because I have plans for Steven. We're gonna fly. I'm going to pay him, of course. We're going to fly Steven up with me to Vermont. We're going to hook my brothers. We're going to get them all modernized on his networking in Vermont, especially now that it's not like snowing incessantly up there. Carbolixylated wants to know, is this an ARM PC running Windows? It sure is. Windows 10 ARM. Yep, this has got and I've got the specs here. This is a Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2. So this is the latest Snapdragon processor in here. I think it might be further ahead than the Surface Pro or the Surface X. Let me see what that one's got. Unless they came up with a new one that has the same chip in it. Let me look and see what the specs are. So the specs on... Okay, oh, that's right. So the Microsoft one has like a custom chip. That's right. All right, so what do we say we do the unboxing, and then we'll start playing around with this thing and see what we can get done in the next couple hours here. And Steven's at a community park. Yeah, there's a couple of parks that's where I parked my car to do my uploads when we didn't have service for a week or so. Steven also got Starlink. He's got a dish. He's going to keep his service. I'm going to cancel mine, not because it's bad, but because it's my backup. And I guess what'll happen is that there's a chance if I need it, it may not be available to me if they have too many people in the area with it. But I figure, by the time I need it, I'm sure it'll be available again. So, I said I bought it as a backup, but it's great. I think it's the real deal. And the thing with this is that, if you can get a good chunk of the country on decent broadband, whether it's Starlink, OneWeb, or Amazon Kuiper, if you can get a big chunk of the country up on that without having to spend billions of dollars of taxpayer money to install monopolies in those places, why not go with a competitive market? I just don't get. I understand fiber is really good. We're on fiber optic in my house right now. It's the best, but not everybody needs it. And does it require us to spend so much money to do that? I don't know. I just think if you've got something that works and you can offer people consumer choice, why do we need to fund it like that? Backhaul I'm okay with, I mean, if there's a need for that, but do we need to do the last mile if there's an alternative? This technology didn't exist 5 years ago. Now it does. Okay. So let's get cooking here. This is a question I don't have an answer to, but maybe somebody in the chat knows. How does the 8CX compare to the Snapdragon 888 higher TDP? I'm guessing it does have a higher TDP. So I know the MacBook obviously has a higher profile, I think, than the iPhone does, even though they're different chips. All right. So let me ask you this, Carbolixylated, is there a Blender benchmark that I can find? Because I'm not good with all this 3D stuff, but I would love to have something I could just run and measure and compare one machine to the other. But we will run some gaming benchmarks on this. All right, so let me get the unboxing going, and we'll go from there. All right, everybody, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we've got another unboxing, and this one's going to be a fun one to play around with. This is the HP Elite Folio. And this is a 2-in-1 from HP, And this has an ARM processor inside, not an Intel processor, not an AMD processor. It's running ARM. It's a Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2. And we're going to have a full review of this soon, but today we're going to unbox it and see what it looks like. Now this is on loan from HP, so when we're done playing around with it, it goes back to them. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this unboxing, nor is anyone reviewing it or approving it before it gets uploaded. So we've got a box within a box here, and we're going to do the overhead view now. All right, let me just adjust. The overhead camera is not in a good position, so I'm going to end this as a part 1. I'm just making a recording as we go here. I like to make the most efficient use of my time as I can. So if I can live stream and make a recording at the same time, that is effective use of my time, right? Because we're able to gain the value of the time that I'm putting in for this activity, the live stream. We get that value, and then we also get the value of an unboxing video that should do pretty well on the Extras channel and on my Amazon page. So that's how this stuff works. And you all get to see how the sausage is made here on Lon.TV. And it was good to see Jake the other day, too. I have not had, so Jake and I went up to Vermont together for Josh's Starlink thing, and then that was the last time I saw him in person. So he's been just coming by and picking up stuff. So we're going to try to figure out, first of all, I got to clean up this place. I got so many things that I want to do. So yeah, we got a lot of post-pandemic alignment to do if we're there yet. And Stephen says, the wonders of vMix. Yes, vMix is really, if you have a PC that can run it well, it is spectacular. You know, I was using a TriCaster before, but I actually prefer vMix. I was not expecting to, but vMix has become my go-to. I think I've been running with it now for over a year. All right. Hazard says, where's the sausage we're making? I could use a good couple of links right now. All right. Recipe Bob is here, by the way. Say hello to Recipe Bob, everybody. All the usuals are here. And we'll pick up on camera 3. By the way, I do all this myself, in case you're wondering, all the switching. And my recorded videos actually are done just like the live streams are done. So I've been doing it for the last 8 years or so. Okay. Bear with me here, folks. So we are going to go to this part. It's actually a nice classy box. Okay. You know what? I just want to check and see. HP Elite Folio. I just want to see if there's any metal on it. I'm guessing that it's got to be. It's a hybrid leather, or it's a, they call it leather, but it is called vegan leather. I'm not sure what kind of metal it is, but it is a metal body. And the big deal with this is the pull-forward design, which we will demo when we get it out of the box. Okay, so let's pick it up here. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's get this box open. It's a very classy packaging here. And you've got a little design here to show you what the different modes are of this. This is a 2-in-1, so it's a tablet, and it's a laptop, and it's an entertainment device as well. It looks like I can pull up this little tab here to get it out. And we will unwrap the plastic. Again, this is brand new. Now, this looks and feels like leather. It almost kind of smells like leather, but it's not. They call this a vegan leather, but it's actually a plastic. So it is vegan, technically, but it's a plastic. And then the inside here is metal. It actually feels really nice. I like the aspect ratio of the display. I think this is a 3:2 display, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. Yes, 3:2 display. Okay, so let's pick this up from where I left off. And actually, this gives me a good opportunity to adjust the camera. I'm going to have to move that box again for continuity, but we'll get in on the other shot there a little bit, just so I can demo the different modes that it can it can sit in. Okay. All right, so let's add that clip to my clip list here real quick. Yeah, this unboxing is for the extras channel. And bear with me here. How's everybody doing today? You all having fun? Are you getting like out again? It's so funny, like everybody's coming out of the woodwork now, at least where I am. All right, so this is, we're going to call this unboxing part 2. Just want to make sure this looks good. I'm just going to play this back, everybody, so bear with me here. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's get this box open. It's a very classy packaging here, and you've got a little design here to show you what the different modes are of this. This is a 2-in-1, so it's a tablet and it's a laptop and it's an entertainment device as well. It looks like I can pull up this little tab here to get it out. And we will unwrap the plastic. Again, this is brand new. Now, this looks and feels like leather. It almost kind of smells like leather, but it's not. They call this a vegan leather, but it's actually a plastic. So it is vegan, technically, but it's a plastic. And then the inside here is metal. It actually feels really nice. I like the aspect ratio of the display. I think this is a 3x2 display, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so now we're going to pick it up on this shot here and move the stuff away. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's move the box out of the way. We'll see what else is in the box in a little bit here. And it feels really nicely designed. It looks like there was some thought that went into this. I'm going to power it up, and while it's loading, we'll have a look at some of the features here. Now, this is a fanless device, so it's not going to make any noise. Again, it's powered by an ARM processor, so that is a lot more power efficient, and we'll see how well it performs when we do the full review. Again, I really like the aspect ratio of the display. That's really nice to have, especially for productivity and stuff. Let me give you the overhead view here. The keyboard is backlit. Looks nice. It's like your standard HP keyboard, so it's very similar to some of their other devices. There is a pen that docks right here on the top of the keyboard deck, and then there's a SIM tray here as well, because they have a 4G and a 5G version of this, so you can connect it to cellular networks and all that good stuff. We've got Windows booting up here right now. I'm seeing a little bit of backlight bleed on the display. Definitely a lot here along the top, so we'll keep an eye on that as we work our way through the review. Now for ports, let me give you the overhead view again. We've got a USB Type-C port here on the left and another one here on the right, and that looks like that's it for ports, just those two. And these are not Thunderbolt ports, they're USB Type-C, but they're full service, so you can do video out, power in, and data devices. Trackpad feels pretty nice on this. You do have a shutter for the camera lens here, and we'll explore the quality of the camera in the full review. All right, that is part 3. All right, and now, let's see. There was something else. I wanted to show the different modes of operation, so I just need to figure out what those modes are. So we've got, so apparently what you can do, it's got what they call a, oh, I see. Oh, look at that. Okay. So it kind of, this is neat. So it's a 2-in-1, right? But you can do that. Or it flips around. Oh, that's cool. So you know what's neat about that? You don't have the keys under your fingers like you do on a traditional 2-in-1. So this display kind of runs on this little hinge here. That's nice. Now it only goes back that far. Disappointed says it kind of looks like the Apple Magic Keyboard. It does have kind of some resemblance to that. Pretty cool. All right, so let's pick it up and we'll show the different modes of operation, and we'll go from there. So we have a, so which one of the two in the back do you miss the most? Do you miss my Mac or the 2GS back there? Recipe Bob can't see a thing. He just got back from the eye doctor. Oof. Hopefully you'll get your sight back soon. I always think of like Han Solo when people coming back from the thing there. Thomas Yanfang, again, on the Starlink topic. Yeah, I mean, it looks like, I mean, for $10 billion, you can, you know, people are saying, well, it's the regulatory environment that makes this so expensive. It's part of the problem, but you know what? The bigger issue is the last mile, is that getting eye-opening for me when they brought the fiber into the house here, you know, how much effort it took to get it in here. Fiber is very delicate. It's very expensive to run the fiber and do all the other stuff. All right, you know what I'm going to do too, because some folks are asking about specs. So I'm going to post the specifications in the chat and pin them there. So it's a Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2, 16 gigs of RAM, and we have, and it's the display is a 13.5-inch display. Let me get the resolution on it. Let's see, let me get the resolution on the display here. I'm just looking on their thing that they sent me here. I really like the design. It's different. I like different. Anytime something, because here's the thing, like when you look at so many computers like I do, when something different shows up, it's exciting because we usually see the same things over and over again. Like here's this year's 2-in-1. It flips around the back, right? This one is like very different. So I think that's pretty cool. Let me just get the specs here on the display. It's a 400 nit display, and it's 1920 by 1280. 20 by 1280, 3 by 2, 400 nits. Hopefully that answers everybody's question there. And I'll pin that here. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is look at where we left off on the last clip, and then we're going to pick it up from there. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's move the button. We'll explore the quality of the camera in the full review. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what I like the fact that this is different in this next clip. And we'll go from there. Thomas Yanfang had a question about the M1 iMac. I had a bunch of people ask about that. And, you know, I didn't order one because I have too many Macs as it is. I got to get rid of some Macs. And the one that I have currently is still working fine. And the other frustration was that it doesn't have an Ethernet port built into it. You've got to get one where the Ethernet is built into the power adapter or something. I guess you could always attach my current multi-gigabit adapter to it. But what I would prefer to do is get the Mac Mini and put it in the spot that my iMac is in now. But my philosophy on this stuff is that if it's not broken, don't replace it. So I just won't get a lot of views on the iMac, like enough to justify the purchase. So I'm definitely getting the new MacBook Pro, whatever it is, because I'm in need of an upgrade there. Because my Mac, I have 2 Macs in my fleet typically. And what's been so funny is that I anticipated this machine replacing my 12-inch MacBook as my on-the-desk small computer. And the funny thing is the M1 is so powerful that the MacBook Air has become my everything. Like I do about 85% of my workday, including editing, on the MacBook Air with the M1. That's how good it is. Like I go back to my 15-inch MacBook Pro, it's a 2016. It's got a quad-core i7. It feels sluggish, like horribly sluggish compared to the M1. So it's amazing. And I'm actually eager to see how this one stacks up, because that's going to be the comparison, right? Is how does this compare to the M1, especially because you can get an iPad with the M1 now too, right? Okay, so we're going to pick it up on me, and we'll go from there. 3, 2, 1. Now, one of the things that I like about this laptop on first impression here is that it's very unique in its industrial design. Typically with a 2-in-1, you flip the monitor around the back of the computer and that's your tablet mode. This one works a little different. So if you want to put it into like the multimedia display mode here, it pulls forward off the base, and that's how you would do that. So you don't get a tent mode with this, but a lot of these 2-in-1s allow you to kind of flip the keyboard underneath. This one allows you to bring the display forward, and it kind of locks into the front of the keyboard here. And you can see what that hinge looks like there. And then if you want to make it a tablet, what you do is lift it back up, and you put the display down like that, and now you have a tablet. So it's a little bit angled here, as you can see, but it's working as a tablet, I think, primarily because you don't have the keys of the keyboard underneath your fingers, which you typically have on a regular 2-in-1 tablet. So it's pretty clever in its design. It does stick up a little bit, but if you wanted that full tablet mode for writing or whatever, you could do that. The one thing I don't think you can do, though, I guess you can do a tent mode, can't you? The one thing you really can't do with it, I'm going to start this again because you can do a tent mode. The one thing you can't do with this, though, as I'm looking at this, is you can't kind of go flat with it. I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. I'm going to check the yeah, the tablet mode is looking the way it does. All right, let's try this again. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Now, one thing I like about this is it's very 3, 2, 1. Now, I really like the industrial design on this because it's different than what I have typically seen out of a 2-in-1 over the last couple of years. So right now we've got it in laptop mode. And then if you want to put it into multimedia display mode, you just bring the display forward like this. The trackpad still works. You also have the touch display that you can use if you want. And then you can turn it into a tablet just by doing that, and that gives you kind of the tablet thing. And typically with a 2-in-1, when you make a 2-in-1 a tablet, you're flipping the display around, and you often have your fingers resting on the keys. But here the display is going over the keys, so you've got that plastic leathery stuff here on the back to grip onto, which I thought was kind of a neat idea. And then it will also apparently work as a tent mode, which we typically see on these as well. It's not as elegant, but it can be put into tent mode as well. So pretty cool. And you can put it back into laptop mode here, or fold it up and take it with you. And again, pretty classy with the little stitching here for the fake leather. Pretty cool. So we're going to have a full review of this coming up very soon, so stay tuned for that. I've got a lot to play with on here. This will be a fun one to check out because it really is a very different computer, both in its design and what's inside driving it. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. All right, that's an unboxing video, and we're done. So let me add clip 4. Yeah, just enough to give people an idea as to what it's about. And what's helpful about the unboxing videos is that I often get some really good ideas for the review. And that's why I also like streaming this stuff too, so I can get a good idea from all of you as to how this stuff works. So we got some folks popping in here. Say hello to some people as we're getting ready to set this up. Hey, Steve Jobs is here, also known as Ryan Ganelli. Hello there. I hope you're doing well. Gaming X Technology, Ahmed is here. Connor likes it, thinks it's pretty nice. He wants to know, is there a headphone jack on it? That's a good question. I don't see one. Oh, there is one. I missed it. There is a headphone jack there on the side. So I'll just put a little underlay there. Is there support for Linux? I think so through virtualization. I don't think you can install Linux outright, although I will defer to the experts in the room on that. Mary Trunks is here. Hello. And I'm glad you liked the format. You know, it took a long time to get a format that I think worked for the people that find my videos, so I'm glad that worked out. I did hear from one of the editors, Tom Warren, who was firing back on my discussion about their ownership by Comcast, because Comcast owns a pretty big stake of Vox Media, which we talked about in the video, and they've never disclosed how much of it they own. And I think that if you're covering broadband and you're owned by a major broadband provider, monopoly, Comcast, you know, like you should disclose the relationship and the equity stake, because he was making it out to be like it's nothing, but they're the lead investor. So how much of Vox Media does Comcast own? Nobody knows. So I sent an email to their press department asking them, because he brought it up. I'm not trying to make drama here, but I think it's important for, if you're going to have a position on something and you have a conflict, irrespective of whether or not your opinion is different than that of your employer, I think it's important if you're covering broadband to mention that you're owned by a broadband monopoly, right? I'm not crazy. But I just felt like that was, look, I've been critical of products before. I am not perfect on this stuff by any means. But, oh, we forgot to take the other stuff out of the box here. Let me see if there's anything else, just a power adapter. I'm not perfect on this stuff by any means, but I'm going to do the box part here. Let's just do that real quick. But I think that if you're going to, I mean, they came in with just an opinion of what Starlink was, and they found a way to prove it without actually trying to, you know what I mean? Like I've had preconceptions about products, and I would test them and say, whoa, that's not what I thought it was. I can think of a few occasions, I can't remember exactly which things they were, but I remember going down a path on a product review, and I realized I was going down an incorrect path. I had to trash the video and start over again because it wasn't correct. So what are you going to do? Okay. Mayor Trunks wants to know, what microphone do I use? So I use a Sennheiser lavalier. It's a part of their AVX system. I have a cardioid lavalier, which helps isolate some of the sound. I didn't send that over there. There we go. So it sounds pretty decent. Yeah, Dominic, the hinge, I'll show you the hinge in a second. It does feel a little, I don't know if it feels fragile, but I feel like I don't want to, I may bring this up in the review. I feel like I don't want to put too much force on it, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know if it's weak or not. It's just something I'm noticing. So that's a very good point that we should talk about. So I'm going to add that to my notes. Bear with me here. I'm just updating my... Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see what else is in the box here. Again, we took the laptop out a minute ago. This is your power cable, and it's got a nice fabric braid to it. That's pretty cool. And it's your standard USB-C power adapter. Let's take a look, if I can get the plastic off of it here, as to what the power level is. It's 65 watts for the power adapter. We have our US plug here. You'll get your own version in your home country. Here we've got a couple little tools here. Looks like one might be, looks like this is for the pen, to replace the tip of the pen if you wear it out. And then in here we have just some basic setup instructions. Okay. All right. Let's put all this stuff back in here. I'm going to take the power cord out though. I'm actually going to occupy both ports on here, I think, because I think I see I have these really cool Ethernet adapters that have power and Ethernet in a sync. So you plug power into the Ethernet port, USB-C power, and you can power your device while you're bringing network in. It's not quite a dock. It's like a powered Ethernet adapter, but it's pretty handy. But I have it on the other side of the room. We were using those outside when we did the Starlink live stream the other day. That was a fun one because I had to figure out how to get all of my networking out there. So I think what I'm going to do is put a couple of outdoor Ethernet jacks and terminate them into my equipment room so that I have the ability to more easily bring stuff outside. Because I had to just run it out the door. And now I've got flies all over the place in here. They all flew in. And then my heater is out too, so I got to get my little split system fixed. Thanks. BB Garnett had some information here about the ownership. So I don't know. I couldn't find a clear breakdown of how much of a percentage they owned already. But I would imagine being the lead investor results in a lot of equity. And there's also a lot of things that they're doing together. So it's a cozy relationship. I'm not saying they're unethical, but what I am saying is that I think if your boss is in the room with these guys all day long, you're going to maybe develop some some opinions on things as to how like broadband should work, maybe, right? Yeah, wires are better. Not necessarily. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to connect to the Ethernet network here. And we have a bunch of updates to download, because what we're going to do is we're going to put this on the Windows Insider program and see how that works. Dave is asking, do I edit my own videos? Most of the time. I have Jake, who helps me out here on the channel, usually does the first edit, and then I go back in and tweak some of it. Although sometimes I edit my own depending on timing. So for example, the Starlink video I did over the weekend, I edited all of that. The editing for me is really quick because I shoot my videos like I'm live streaming. So when I do a cut like this, as we're doing now during the live stream, like I'm actually doing that while I'm recording. So it cuts down the editing time significantly. So like that Starlink video, we were done at whatever time we were done. The kids were going somewhere, so I helped get the kids out the door, and I got the video edited and uploaded in the course of an hour. And now with my connection, it's so fast that my upload is now like 45 seconds, like to get the video uploaded. Oh, Stephen has yes, that's a very good point, Stephen, is to not connect them to the switch when I'm not using them. It's a very good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a very, very good point. So I was going to punch it into my punch panel and just only attach the patch cables when I needed to use it. But it's probably a good practice to set it as the time frame to disconnect. So this is interesting from Lucy D. I had not heard this, but it makes sense that they would maybe install some kind of mini Starlink dish in the car, right? Because they do a lot of software updates, and right now on a Tesla, you're connecting to LTE, which they have to purchase. So I could see that definitely being the case here. It feels pretty snappy so far, but it's hard to say just on the setup screen, So like we'll dive further into this as we go here. And we'll put in my password. And I'm going to have to get that other Ethernet cable, because if I want to attach my external hard drive. There's no fingerprint reader on this. I just noticed that. Not that I can see at any rate. So I should probably set up the face detection. All right, we're almost there. They really try to push you into all sorts of stuff now when you install Windows. So Dexter wants to know, does it have some? Yes, so Microsoft actually has been doing, at least it has had release versions of this much longer than the Mac has had. So out of the box, let's try this for free. Out of the box, I want to get Microsoft Office installed on here anyhow, just to try it out. But out of the box, I don't want to pay for it. It said free trial. No, I'm not doing that. Come on now. All right, we're going to skip that. Out of the box, it will run 32-bit Intel software. But if we attach it to the Windows Insider program, it will do a bunch of other 64-bit apps. I got an elbow bump here from Veronelde. Hello to you. And it's more on Starlink. Yeah, I think NASA and the FCC are noticing that SpaceX is not a bunch of hype. They're getting it done. Nick F says, also as in regards to an outdoor jack, security reasons, and he'd leak internet all over the yard. I used to be a cable tech. I also have to watch for ceiling fans blowing the Wi-Fi particles around. Yeah, I don't want to spill my internet all over the place. I'm with you there. I'm seeing a lot of backlight bleed here on the upper portion of the display. You notice it when you have like colors like that on there. Dominic wants to know, is it fanless? Yes. Yep. All these ARM devices are totally fanless. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. You know, you don't get the higher bit rate, the higher dot pitch display, whatever the right term is, a high DPI display here, because this is essentially a kind of an 1080 display in a 3:2 aspect ratio. So it's not looking as sharp as a 4K display might look. But that also means it'll help you with battery life, because oftentimes you do get a battery hit there. All right, so now we have to activate the Windows Insider program here. And let's go look up where to find that. Here, Insider Program Settings. And I need to make a note of that also. Because without this, without the Insider program, you're not going to be able to run the 64-bit software. So I'm just going to link up my test account here and get that linked. I'm going to do the beta channel. And I'll confirm that. And we got to restart. So I'm guessing we'll have to do an update here once this is done to get us into that Insider mode. Hey, BB Garnett, why don't you email me that link you just posted? That'd be great. All right, so this is popping up. And I think that Bing wallpaper might be my account and not the HP thing. I'd have to check on that, because I did set that up on one of my computers. I like getting those seasonal wallpapers, especially the winter ones. They look so cozy. I like winter when I'm inside. I don't like actually being outside in the winter. That's one thing I like about living in Connecticut. We have a lot of seasons and weather. We have snowstorms. We have not quite tropical weather, but we get really humid weather. So it's really kind of fun just to have a variability in seasons, especially right now because everything's grown back now for the most part. So when I take my dog out for our walk, all the leaves are out. The woods, the forest looks foresty, not all dead with trees just bare. We have leaves again. Okay, so let's take a look here and see if we need to do another update. And then we'll start installing stuff and see what happens. And I think I got to go find my so now it's got to download a bunch of stuff here. So let's let that stuff download. Yeah, Zoran, I think they've got, there's this Bing wallpaper app, and it's one of those things that it does sit in your memory and consume resources and everything, but it's nice because it constantly changes the wallpaper, and the pictures are always beautiful like this. And this must be from Holland, their tulip thing. So you get constantly new wallpapers that are seasonal. So it's just because you never know what it's going to look like when you boot the computer up. I just like it. I really like that stuff. All right, looks like we're downloading some updates here. So let's let those finish updating, and then we'll start playing around with stuff. Yeah, I'm eager to see what the performance is on this. Jedi Mind Trick wants to know, here's a good question. Do I think ARM will eventually replace x86 for Windows laptops? I don't know. It depends on where they go with the performance, because the last time we looked at a Windows ARM computer, it was very expensive, and the performance was, for a lot of software and for some of the benchmarks we ran, a lot of the performance was at the level of like one of the entry-level, whatever Intel chips, the cheap ones, those mini computers. It wasn't very fast. So you're paying like triple for what is essentially a $200 computer's performance, is what it was before. So I don't know if this is going to be much faster. I hope it is, but we'll see. Okay, so I got this wrong. They don't have mountains in Holland. I did know that they had tulips in Holland, so I was halfway right there. Shows what I know. Now I'm going to have to visit Holland and take a look at those tulips for myself without the mountains. So this is a good question that maybe we'll answer in the review, but I'll talk about it now. What is the purpose of ARM? So I think the big attraction of ARM on Windows is the fact that you can get really good battery life and a very thin and light package. Because you're able to run with what's essentially a tablet processor. So I think that's kind of the value proposition. But on the Windows side, it comes at the expense of performance. And on the Mac, it's the opposite, right? We get great battery life and great performance and total game-changing technology. And I think Apple really jumped ahead of Qualcomm on this. But we'll see. I'm going to reserve judgment until we get this thing going. Yes, I did set the Insider channel, but I'm going to double check it after it reboots. It did have a couple of updates that we're going to have to get installed, and one of them is an HP hardware update, which I would imagine is probably important. So we're going to get that one installed too, and then we'll kind of go from there. Yeah, so tomorrow's Sphere is not far from me. It's 80 degrees in Massachusetts. I'm in my damp basement right now. I was outside right before I started the stream. I took my dog out for a walk, so I did get in a little bit of a walk. I'm going to take a second one after I finish up the stream in an hour or so. So there you go. So 555 says, why do non-Apple companies think they can charge Apple money for their computers? I'm guessing that there's obviously cost involved in the design of these, no question about that. And they're not making as many of these, right? So that's part of it. And I guess they have to really look at the price point. What they did say on the call that I was on, they do these, it's actually really helpful. They have calls to kind of introduce the computer and all the different features. And what they said is that if you looked at this versus a Surface device, with the Surface, you got to buy the keyboard separately and the pen separately. What they're saying, hey, the value proposition is you get the whole thing. So it's up to you to decide if that's worth it. And these typically, these are the computers like the CEO walks around with, right? They have some gravitas to them. They don't do more than the basics, right? We'll test that, but they don't do more than the basics because that's all the CEO needs to do is check his or her email, right? So I think that's kind of the thing there. Darius wants to know, are these streams available as a VOD later? Yes, if you go to Lon.TV/live streams, you can see all of my past streams. It'll take you over to Amazon where they're archived. And they're archived on YouTube as well. And you can find those linked on the front page of my YouTube channel. But the monetization for me is better on Amazon for these live streams, so that's where I like to point people. And Dogman, sorry about that. Your niece spilled juice. Oh, I thought initially for that to be that she spit juice all over here. That would have been funnier. It's overheating, but he bought a new tablet. Awesome. You got a lot of use out of it, though, it looks like. Yeah, I think we've got a real chicken and the egg problem when it comes to Windows ARM. Apple just is able to just say, hey, we're done with this. We're moving on to this now, right? So I think that's part of it. Zam says the CEO should stick to iPads if all they do is check email. I'm with you there, because the IT people have to support the Windows stuff that they download. I was one of those people at one point in life, no question about it. And the worst part was the CEO was my dad. Can you imagine that discussion? You have job security, but a lot of aggravation sometimes. But I love working with my dad. It was fun. Gaming says that the Samsung Galaxy Book Go has the same processor. And we got a BIOS update going on right now. That's right. And yep, it is a BIOS update. It was one of the things it downloaded, so we're going to let it go through the motions here. And Saran says you better have the gaming UPS up and running for the BIOS update. Absolutely. Win32 says, hey, look, a Windows update. What a great, amazing surprise. Yeah, they always hit at the wrong time. I was on I had a conference call the other day. I felt so bad for the person because she was in charge of the conference call, and her computer just decided to update right before the meeting was going to start. Knocked her out for 15 minutes. And yeah, I'm very excited about the M1 successor also, Jedi Mind Trick, because I want a bigger, I think I'm getting old, my eyes don't work as well as they used to, so I want a bigger display, and I would love to see what a beefed up M1 relative will look like. So Ryu has an SD card that makes my files delete. I wonder if it's got a virus on it or something. Back in the old days, there was a bunch of these viruses that would spread via floppy disk. I got hit with it a couple of times. It was one of these boot sector viruses. So when you put it in the computer, it would execute in the background and install itself on whatever hard drive it could find, and floppy disk. So you'd have these disks that were literally infected. And if you gave a disk to your friend, your disk would then your hard disk would get infected with the Stoned Empire virus. I forgot what it did. I think it was, the one that I got was called Stoned Empire Monkey B was the virus. And I forgot what it did exactly, but I do remember when I was a freshman in college, I had gone to one of those computer fairs and I bought my first gigabyte hard drive. That was a big deal. I got a great deal on it. I was so excited to get this low-cost gigabyte hard drive. And what happened was that the hard drive had that boot sector virus on it, and it like blew up like a couple weeks into ownership. And then all the floppies that I had got infected. It was like it was a total mess. Lou Bear wants to know, that's a good question, is Iris better than M1 chip graphics? I did a test on this, and I think that M1 is faster than Iris, at least when you're benchmarking. It's hard to do in apples to apples because you can't run the same software, but if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, and on my benchmark chart, there is a, let's see, if you look on the tabs on the lower section of that chart, there's a new test that 3D Mark came up with. Let me see if I can find it here. And it is called Wildlife Unlimited. And we tested, so the MacBook M1, the MacBook Air, on that benchmark test, which is a multi-platform benchmark test, got a score of 18,030. And I'm looking at the 3D Mark Wildlife Unlimited. I don't think I tested I did test Tiger Lake. Tiger Lake came in just under it at 12,741. So on that test, and you can take a look on the Lon.TV/benchmarks page. By the way, it's loading in mobile broadband firmware. So this does have an LTE radio in there. So on that test, and granted that's one benchmark, but the M1 did a little better. And what was also intriguing about that score is that the version of the benchmark we were running on the Mac was actually the iPad version, which of course runs in Mac OS X. So I don't know if one optimized for the Mac would actually do better than what we got, but there you go. All right, we're almost done on the mobile broadband update, and then we'll check the Windows Insider things. Retro Carl says it was slow on first boot. We just did an update, so I think that might have been some residuals of that. Yeah. That was another thing I used to remember, dreading the BIOS update, because you would totally brick your computer. I think you could have to like replace the little BIOS chip, right, if you had a bad update. Subash wants to know, who's this being targeted for? I really think it's like the CEO, right? I think it's somebody who wants a stylish computer, who's looking for a two-in-one, that wants something a little different. I'm really eager to see what the performance is on this. That's what I'm most interested in here. All right, so we're in the Insider program. Let's just make sure, because I know I activated it. All right, we are getting preview builds. I don't recall it downloading a preview build, so let me go back to Windows Update, because it might be in there now. Oops, no, I don't want to do that. Shoot, resume updates. Let's see. Checking for updates. Oh, we're definitely enrolled in the beta channel. Okay, so now we're getting all the other stuff here. So it's updating the Realtek Wi-Fi driver, it looks like. It is updating the Windows Feature Experience Pack. And then there's the feature update to Windows 10 version 21H1, which I assume is probably what's going to enable the 64-bit emulator. So Darius has got a good question. 3x2 or 16x10, which do I prefer? I don't know. I think 16x10 I kind of like a little better, because it's a little bit wider, but it's also taller. And this is more square, right? So preference-wise, I think I'm probably a little more on the 16x10 side of things. However, I think it depends on the computer and how it's laid out. So my little 12-inch MacBook, I think, had a 3x2 display or close to that, and I really kind of like that one. All right, so we're going to wait for this update, this feature update to install, and then we'll reboot again. Welcome to Windows, although this is because we're installing all the beta stuff, so that's part of it. And I have the Surface Laptop Go, which I like quite a bit also. It has a similar aspect ratio. Yeah, so I have like my Windows desk I have two desk computers. I got the MacBook Air, and I've got for Mac stuff, and then I've got the Surface Laptop Go for my Windows stuff. And I really like that little Surface Laptop Go. And it was so fun when we reviewed it, because you can boot Ubuntu up on that Surface device, which I think is awesome that Microsoft allows. And it's so weird, because on Ubuntu now, when you boot up Ubuntu, it'll bring over the BIOS image, the logo of the computer. So you're booting Ubuntu with a Windows logo on the front of it, which I always think is funny. But I got to tell you, I think Microsoft under Satya Nadella has done a lot of good. I think they have really figured out like how they work in this century, if that makes sense. So I don't think they were ever rudderless as a company. They were too big, I think, to fail to some degree, because Windows is so prevalent. But they really stumbled, I think, with Windows 8. And Windows 10 I've been very happy with. I'm a multi-platform household. So I do most of my day-to-day on a Mac, but all of my live production is Windows. So this machine that runs vMix is a Windows 10 computer that I built. And my gaming computer upstairs is Windows, and of course I got the little Surface laptop. So I got a bunch of Windows computers. And it's not the gulf that it used to be between Mac and Windows. I always felt like Apple was always ahead of Microsoft insofar as how the operating system felt, but I think they're largely at parity to a good degree. But there's something elegant about the whole vertical integration of software and hardware. Got a super chat from my friend Zam. Thank you very much. Very generous of you. Windows will end up being a Linux distribution. I think you're right about that. They are moving in a direction where they're much friendlier to open source. They've definitely been doing that. Ara says, is this thing an updated Newton? That's a good question. I'd say the iPad has really become the Newton. I did a video on that, if you all remember, kind of comparing that. Zozu says the size of the display depends on the machine itself. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the 3x2 works well here. So Win32, though, wasn't happy about, yeah, I think Windows 7 was kind of the pinnacle of like the old Windows, right? Like that was the ultimate version of Windows that could be detached from the network if you wanted it to do that. I will try to get one of those in Octavian. Is that new? I'm guessing it's new, right? Stephen here says, in another life when I used to go to Microsoft tech conventions, the good old days, they had a consistent mantra, it's not your father's Microsoft anymore. That is quite true. I remember buying, so I had a 386 that I bought in 1991, and just to date myself, and I had to buy DOS 6 and Windows 3.1 in big boxes. I bought them from Egghead Software. That was a fun thing, just to get the big Microsoft box of stuff. DOS 6. I think it was 6.2, I think is what I bought. All right, we're almost there on the install. Okay, so pending restart. So we got 2 big updates here to do on the restart. So let's do that. And then when we come back up, we should be on the beta channel. And I think what I'll do is I'll just jump right to some benchmarks. We'll just install some stuff. All right, we are booting. So Tanmoy asks, what if something gets corrupted on these ARM Windows devices and I have to reinstall Windows? Can I download the ARM version of Windows? So I think what these will do, and if you have reset I'm just going to get my other Ethernet adapter. If you had to reset an Intel machine in the past couple of years, you'll know that you can essentially download the install kind of in place, right? It'll download as it, during the installation process. So I'm pretty sure that you can do that. And bear with me, folks. I'm just trying to find my special fancy little Ethernet adapters that have the power built into them. I do have this one. This will probably work if I can't find the other one. All right, so I'm going to go and so I got this little docking station thing here that I'm going to use. And hopefully that's compatible. And we'll get that going here. Let me just check and see if I don't have the other ones in the place they belong. So I brought so much stuff outside the other day, and as usual, when I came back in, I did not put everything back where I found it. Oh, here they are. I guess I did do that. Perfect. So this is what I'm going to use this thing. So this is an Ethernet adapter, but it has power in over here. So I can do both networking and power on the same thing here. So we can just attach this. This is gigabit too, so it's super handy. So I can grab the power cord here and then plug that into this. So now I've got power for the laptop, and I've got my Ethernet, and now I've freed up the other port. And this is what you do when you own a Mac. So this is a helpful experience to be able to do that. And why are we why are we using Ethernet? Well, we're using Ethernet because the network is faster for me if I am plugged in versus relying on Wi-Fi. Okay, so now let's go and see if we are done with our updates here. And then we'll make sure that we're on the right version of Windows. So the OS build info here is 21H1 the beta channel? I don't know. Let's see. We got to get the marketing here, right? Now, Edge is optimized for ARM. I don't know if Chrome has an optimized version yet, so I'll go track that down. But this is the, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Chromium Edge. Yeah, you know, it doesn't look like we're on that version, does it? So let's go back a notch here. And now it's got another thing it's installing. So I think we just have to get through all these updates here. Yeah, we're on the beta channel. Unless that is the preview edition, is that could be what it is? I don't know, we'll see. Let's wait for these updates. We got another Windows Feature Experience Pack to install. All right. We got to restart again. And hopefully after this is done, we'll be ready. Octavian asked about the M1 iMac. I'm probably not going to get, I mentioned this before, I'm not going to probably get to that because it's just not going to do well on the channel because everyone's going to be reviewing the M1 iMac, right? So it's just hard for me to stand out on that one. And I don't have a need for it. If I had a need for an M1 iMac, I'd be totally buying one right now. But if I got a new Mac, I'd get the, so what I would probably do, if that iMac over there died, what I would do is replace it with an M1 Mac Mini, and I would get a second 4K display to go with it. Because I just don't like the notion of having my entire computer integrated, you know, the keyboard, mouse, storage, everything is in one thing, right? Although you really can't work on them very well anymore, but. All right, so let's jump into this. And let's see if we are done updating finally here. But you can see how much time it takes because, you know, when you go to review a computer, you really got to get all these updates installed, all the drivers updated, because you got to give it a fair shake. And sometimes, and we found this with the HP computer we were looking at the other day, it did not perform as well with the drivers it came with. We had to install those other drivers just to get it up to par. Zam wants to know, would I get the Mac Mini with the 10 gig Ethernet? Totally. Absolutely. Yep, I would get that one. That's the other reason, too, that I like the Mac Mini is that the iMac has no Ethernet at all. They have like they've got a power adapter that costs extra that has the Ethernet built into the power adapter, but it's only 1 gigabit. So I'd be occupying one of the Thunderbolt ports with my 10 gig Ethernet adapter. Okay, so I think we are good. I don't know how to know if I am on the insider build here or not, but I'm on 21H1. So I think we might be. That was released on May 10th. So let me see, Windows Insider Beta download. Let's see how we get that installed here. Okay, so flight, preparation. Okay, so I did all that. Settings, update, security, Windows Insider program. Select to get started, pick an account, which I did. Okay. It says it will update like a normal Windows 10 update, so maybe that's the version. Is the release version? I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so let's go and put, we're going to go put Steam on this thing, and we'll get one of my 3D Mark benchmarks loaded up, and we'll just run it and see how it does. And we'll see how much more, what else we have time for before that wraps up. So we're just going to put my external hard drive installed in here. Now this drive is a little PNY drive, and it has a bunch of Steam games loaded on it, so I don't have to download them every time we do a test on something. I'm just going to move that off to the side there so we don't have wires all over the place, which we do anyhow. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to go and grab Steam, and we'll get that going. I don't normally do browsing by search, but it's just quicker. And we'll install Steam. Now, this is not an ARM application, and I'm pretty sure that this is a 32-bit Windows app. So this should run irrespective of our version here. All right, so I'm going to finish that, and I'm just going to type in my Steam password and stuff and get going with that in a second here. Because then we can get an idea as to exactly how that works. Okay, almost there. All right, so let me log into my Steam account. And then I've got to go back to my laptop and get my little code thingy that they sent me. At least I should be getting that code. There it is. Okay, next. I do like the keyboard though. It's got a nice, like, solid feel to it, and probably because there's not much stuff in between the computer's keyboard and the rest of the computer, but it feels pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to point my Steam library at my folder here, and we may end up having to go to like a more aggressive version of the thing here. So let me just point my Add Library folder, and we're going to go to Drive D, Steam Games, select. And now I've got games downloaded. All right, so let's load up the 3D Mark benchmark here. This is what we've been working towards, is getting this thing loaded. I will say, just browsing the Steam interface here, it feels a bit sluggish. And I'm going to force 64-bit just to see if we've got the right version of Windows going here. So let's try that real quick. So Corey says the Microsoft Edge beta channel will put you ahead due to testing new features. Give that a shot. Yeah, this will be the big thing that I'm looking for, Mohammed, is what exactly the performance looks like here, right? It's definitely feeling, it doesn't feel as zippy as my Mac would feel at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, Stephen got, see, this is my inspiration for getting that Mac Mini. He's got the M1 Mini with the 10 gigabit. He loves it. And actually, what I could even do, that's why I'm holding out for the MacBook Pro, because I could have that MacBook Pro be my desktop and my laptop, because it's the same chip. And if it has active cooling, it'll be very similar to the Mac Mini experience, I'm guessing, if not better, right? And yeah, back to the, Antano has a point here. I think we're back to that kind of chicken and the egg issue, right? Is what's the plan for Qualcomm? How are they going to get these chips running at a faster level of performance? Okay, so x64 emulation is available since build 21277. Okay, so we'll check that in a minute. I think we're okay because, oh, yep, so we're on the wrong build here. So we gotta, so let's switch the insider channel here. I thought being on the insider beta channel would get us there, but maybe it's still in, now how do you know what build you're on? OS build info. So the OS build that I have here is 19043, so yeah, we're definitely behind on that. And I did have, yeah, I just felt like it hadn't downloaded anything. So we'll have to switch to the dev channel, I guess, right? I have no choice. So we'll switch to dev channel and see if that improves the scenario for us. But you know what that means, everybody? Check for updates. right, Dogman's going to get some new AC units. Yeah, so now we're getting 21. Yep, there it is. So that's what it was. The beta channel was not giving us an updated build with the x64. So it's a good thing I hooked the Ethernet up, everybody, so it shouldn't take too long. Versified says, does it play Crysis? Right now it doesn't play anything but download updates. Not their fault, my fault. So we'll get there. Sam says, I can't wait for Windows to run on the... Yeah, you know, they did release the new version of Parallels that does run that, and we did a video on that as well. Around New Year's we did that one. Pretty good performance. It was running some Windows games much better than I expected. Heffen loves the M1 Mac Mini. I'm loving my MacBook Air. And Zosu says there's some, so is this like some smoke and mirrors, Zosu? Is that they're doing some things behind the scenes to make it feel more snappy? Because it feels super fast. Like when I compare this to my Intel Macs, it's like night and day. So Ryu, this is a good question. Maybe some of you can help with this. Do you know which SD cards are fake and which ones are real? I typically buy name brands only. I do SanDisk, I do Samsung. I look for the name brands. And that's the best advice I can give. The problem is when you're outside the US, sometimes like these shady operators start selling these counterfeit cards. But if you're on like Amazon or something, I typically will buy the cards that Amazon is selling and shipping from. You know what I mean? Like I'm not buying I'm not buying like some third-party seller's cards when I do that. All right, we're about halfway there on the download. And you know what's funny? I think that most of these updates kind of throttle themselves to about half a gigabit. It's really interesting. Jay wants to know, am I drinking tea or coffee? I am drinking some Sumatra coffee today. Sumatra is my blend of the day. And this is my Disney World mug. I think I got this in Disney World. Maybe not. It says, here, are you looking at me? So usually like my routine is around 2 o'clock I get my coffee. I used to go down to Dunkin' Donuts and I stopped doing that for a while. I may start going back to Dunkin' Donuts. I miss getting I like getting out of the house after. So I have like the morning work, lunch, and then I like to get out of the house for a minute and then do the afternoon work. So Zosu says, the gist of what Apple is doing is that there are 5 priority levels. Any background tasks are forced into the efficiency cores. Oh, that's interesting. So it's really smart about how it's dividing the workload. And I guess they've got 8 cores, like 4 high efficiency and 4 low efficiency, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or is it quad core? I can't remember. And the other thing related to this SD card question is that when you buy a name brand card, they will work. If you try to save a couple of bucks, it never works out. But right, shipped and sold by Amazon, especially on SD cards. And if they don't have one, then don't get it. Find another brand. Corey likes the Samsung cards. Yeah, Samsung, SanDisk, they're all pretty good. I've only had one bad SanDisk card in 25 years. And they replaced it like that. They were super quick to give me a new one. In fact, I don't know where it is at the moment, but my very first SanDisk card that I bought in 1998, it's 48 megabytes. It cost me a fortune. Megabytes, remember, not gigabytes. 48 megabytes. And that SanDisk card, a compact flash card, it kind of looks like this one. Still works after all those years. I was using it in my Kodak digital camera back then. That's what it was using there. I got some comments on Amazon from some friends. Master Billy wants to know, did I check out the Google I/O keynote? I haven't, and I'm eager to watch it. I'm wondering if there's anything new on Android TV, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I'm going to watch that later this evening. PC Phil says, the Windows update screen that every day, yep. And what we're doing now is we're installing the Windows Insider Preview build. I was on the beta channels. I wanted to get the most stable one I could get. And back to my discussion from yesterday is that, I'm probably going to switch out of the beta build back to the regular build after I'm done testing the games and stuff, because I want to give the laptop a fair shake, right? So in order to run some of our benchmarks, we need to go to the dev channel, but obviously this is shipping with a different version of Windows that's more stable. So this is going to be the trick with this one. I'm going to have to spend some more time on this tomorrow to get this right. But I did a poll on the YouTube channel, and this is what people wanted to see first. It was a close match here. I'll pull up my. Let me change my account here. So I think if I look on my chart here, so it looks like we've had, how many votes have we had? 1,000 votes, give or take. And so this one is what people want to see next the most. So this one had 36% of the respondents saying that that's what they wanted to see next. Second place is close here between a new Legion 5 Pro gaming laptop and the new HP X360 with Ryzen. So those two will be, I'll probably do the gaming laptop after this one and then go to the HP one. And the ThinkPad X1 is in last place at 17%. So people really wanted to see this one next. So we will get to that. And we're just waiting for that update to finish up. And we're just waiting a little bit longer. Spike Blighty wants to know, how is it? We're going to find out very shortly once we get this insider build installed. We had to get a bunch of updates done. It's partly my fault because I should have put it on the dev channel to begin with. So we'll see what happens. It says, glad to see I'm still looking down at the worms. And Smash, it's nice to see the stream. Yeah, we stream quite a bit. Set your notifications. And if you follow me on Amazon, you will get notified better than YouTube. We're almost there. We're still installing the beta preview. It looks like it's a pretty big chunk of code here. Kazeshi is still waiting for game emulator support on the M1. You know what's funny, though? The Intel emulators actually run really well on the M1. We did, in my review, we ran Dolphin. It ran great without even having a native version. So William says that his last Windows update filled the SSD, trying to back it up to one of my 4 terabyte externals just to keep the SSD free. Yeah, that's the one problem when they have these little tiny SSDs that these things ship with. So Versified says, if you have a Micro Center near you, their house brand is pretty good for SD cards. I don't have one near me, unfortunately, because I would probably be living there without question. Oh, wow, so I'm having some Sumatra coffee, and RemSource account here says his grandmother lives in Sumatra, and she manages a coffee farm there. I wonder if this is the Amazon branded coffee, so I wonder if this came from, you should ask her if they sell beans to Amazon. That'd be kind of funny if I'm drinking her coffee right now. It's possible. All right. So how long have we been streaming here? I mean, this is almost an hour and a half. Now, granted, I was futzing around for a little bit. We recorded that unboxing video and everything else. So we're about 36% right now on the installation. So we'll just let that do its thing. It feels pretty good. It doesn't feel as quick as an Intel machine might feel. But it's hard. It's hard to make a judgment yet. So we will reserve judgment until we run some benchmarks and stuff on it. But I will say, if you don't like backlight bleed, you will not be happy with what I'm seeing up here. Especially right in this corner. There's a good amount of backlight bleed under that upper bezel. All right, we're at 44%, everybody. Take 5. B7 says the PNY brand isn't bad. Yep, those are pretty good too. In fact, I got an old one here. This is a compact flash card that I used in my digital camera many years ago. This one's funny. I actually remember when I bought this one. My wife and I were going on a trip to Hawaii, and we were getting packed up, and I said, oh my gosh, I don't have any memory cards for the camera. So I just bought this new camera, which takes like huge RAW files. So I had to run out to the local office supply store and just had to buy whatever they had. So I got that card there. All right, we're still waiting here. Oh, no, it's 50% now. Spike Blighty says, is that the right price? It is, unfortunately. It is very expensive. That's the one thing that I think is killing ARM on Windows, is that there's not an inexpensive ARM-based Windows machine yet. And I don't know what's driving the cost up. And thank you, BB Garnett, for sending me that link. I will take a look at it. Mohammed wants to know, do I think Microsoft is rushing Windows 10 on ARM? It's been almost 4 or 5 years since introduced, and many developers still haven't optimized. You know, I think that comes back to that chicken and egg thing, right? Like, how do you see? Apple said we're just going to do this, and you're either on the ride or not. So, I think there's definitely a lack of developer support, and to some degree, a lack of hardware support. There's not that many of these ARM-based machines out there, is there? And Zam says, isn't ARM supposed to be cheaper than Intel? I don't know. You'd think they'd be at least the same price. But yeah, this one's rather pricey. Now granted, you get the pen and the keyboard, and you know, it looks like a laptop, but it's a 2-in-1. You know, we saw how it does all those fancy maneuvers there. So there's some things to like about this. I like the design. I mean, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels as, like if I were buying this is on loan from HP, by the way, so we send this back to them when we're done with it. But if I had spent that much money on this and I took it out of the box, I would feel like I got a high quality computer. It feels nice. It's nice and thin. It's just high quality. The resolution of the display surprised me. I thought you'd have a higher res display for the price. It's basically like a 1080p display. Spike Blighty says, how's the build quality? It's good. It's metal. So this part's metal. This must be like an aluminum or a magnesium. And then the back of it, similar to one of those Lenovo's we looked at recently, it's got what they call vegan leather. So it's a faux leather, but it feels like leather. So Tano says that ARM is charging, Qualcomm is charging $300. That's a lot, right? Yes, it's like Linux too. Not a lot of games and other software because a lot of people, right? Yep, it's one of those chicken and egg things, right? It's tricky. So Ryu, I have a Sega Saturn. I haven't used it in a while. I have a project that we're going to do with it soon. So ask away. I'm sure some other people have one too. So Zoran says that .NET Core is cross-platform, so you can compile from multiple processors. Yeah, I think Microsoft has done the work here. You know, because I was actually impressed when I first looked at an ARM-based Windows machine a couple of years ago. It was impressive as to how far along they were with it. Like it was running the 32-bit code, the Intel code, seamlessly. Like you didn't have to think about it. You know, if you had 64-bit apps, it was another story. But really, it was running everything. You know, the emulator was just seamless, much like the Mac was. And that's what kind of surprised me. I was like, wow, this reminds me. If you go back and look at it, I think it was a Asus machine. I said, this reminds me of what it was like when Apple switched to Intel. It just ran the PowerPC code just without any. You didn't have to think about it. It just did it. And I think they did a really good job there. But again, it's like one of those things where you got to get the hardware manufacturers on board. And I'm surprised because we see all of these really low-cost ARM-based Chromebooks. So you know, I guess you need a beefier Snapdragon to run Windows, but we'll have to see. Prime says, why don't you cover Google I/O? You know why? Because everybody else is. I just don't do well with that. And I did miss the Atlas V launch, partly because I wanted to get this going today. So I need to start doing some more space stuff. And V7 Tech, yes, the project is a mode upgrade. So I have a mode, it's in my Dreamcast, and rather than switch it back and forth, because it's not really well suited for that, I got a second mode. So I got one for the Saturn and one for the Dreamcast, but I never have time to actually play with it. We'll have to see what we do there. Dava says, do you like Google or Mac? So I'm going to be really wishy-washy and tell you that I like both. I have different things for different purposes. So for my TV, Android TV is my deal. So I have my NVIDIA Shields on all my televisions. Although I can't watch Apple TV on my NVIDIA Shield, which drives me crazy. So I like Android for that. I have a couple of Android phones that we use for demos and stuff here on the channel. I like Mac for my day-to-day stuff. So I have different technology for different purposes. But I actually use it all. I use Windows, I use Mac, I use Android, I use iOS. I just use everything. And there's different purposes for each. Ben Forsyth says the pen housing looks so much more convenient than the previous version. Yeah, I like how it puts the pen in here. It's easy to get the pen out too. And it just comes, so you can set it to automatically load up an app here when you do that. It feels good. It's got a good, the distance between where the pen gets picked up is pretty good. Like I'm pretty far away from the screen and it's found it. So I like that quite a bit. All right, so, oh, it's not even paired yet. To pair, click connect and then hold the top button down for 3 to 7 seconds. All right, so try it again. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000. Okay, looks like we're in. There we go. So it's got a battery indicator for the pen. It feels nice. And you have a bunch of apps that can preload when you push the button. The top pen button, I see this one. So I push the top button, it'll give me Microsoft Whiteboard. I have to download it first. But it charges, so you see it's got the little pogo plugs there, so it charges when it's in that thing. Now can you put it in upside down? Oh, it flips over. Wow, wait a minute, that's cool. So I'm putting it in upside down. So I can give you the overhead here. Okay, so I'm putting the pen in, I was thinking like, what happens if you put it in upside down? So we're putting it upside down. It flips over. That is cool. Let me try it again. So the pen's in upside down, it flips over and goes right side up. That is, see, that's what you pay $2,000 for. That is cool. Well, there you go. That's worth the 2 hours you've spent with me so far today. So I put it in right side up, it just goes in. Can we force it to, it just flips right over. It's like magic. There's got to be like a magnet that must like just guide it in. But I'm really trying. I cannot get it to go upside down. That is something. Isn't that cool? That is really cool. I'm sold. All right, let me catch, wow, we're getting a lot of questions here. Okay, so do I like the keyboard? Yes, I like the keyboard a lot. It feels nice. Todd wants to know, is it good or not? I cannot give you a judgment on good or not yet because I'm still installing the Windows Insider build. And this is not HP's fault. This is kind of the issue that we run into with ARM on Windows, which is that you can run the 32-bit Intel apps no problem on the base build. but you got to switch over to Windows Insider into the dev build in order to run the 64-bit applications, which in my opinion at this point represents a bulk of the apps that a Windows user would likely run, right? So I think that's an issue. But the build quality feels great. You've got faux leather and metal. And as far as the bench, yeah, so we're going to run, what we have time for once this is done doing whatever it's doing, we'll run our 3D Mark benchmarks and see what we can get out of it. Because I'm really eager to see, like, where does this fall versus the, versus the Intel equivalents. But I could see it totally working well for that kind of stuff. We'll do a look at the pen also. Tana says, the pens are great. You use them the first time and never touch them again. Yeah, I don't use my pen much. I have the pen on the iPad, and I take notes on it when I used to go to meetings, but I don't go to meetings anymore in person, so don't do that anymore. I will be doing those soon, I think. So what's this Chia coin everybody's talking about? Somebody sent a comment that they're using something to make Chia. How would I compare a Chromebook to Windows or Mac OS? I think a Chromebook is something my kids use and something I have my mom use. That's what I say. Because it's basic transportation. It's mostly a web browser, although it does other things. But it's not for everybody. And I did a whole video on Chrome OS and like kind of the breakdown of what works for people. And V7 Tech says that the Yogas are doing. Actually, I think the Yoga 9i, the one that we reviewed recently, I'm pretty sure that Yoga was real leather. I think they actually put real leather on the Lenovo, not the vegan one. But you limit your market there because if people are vegan or vegetarian, they may not want to buy something with real, real cowhide or whatever. Zoran says, no, not yet. We're doing the updates here. So now we'll be on the beta channel in a minute once this is done updating. But you ever wonder what I do all day? This is what I do all day. Usually I have Jake do this stuff, but I thought you all would be interested in seeing this because we haven't looked at ARM Windows in a while, and I was curious to see if it's improved any. And I will reserve judgment until I have a chance to actually run a benchmark on it. But I will say, it's not feeling like incredibly snappy to me. Like if I were to compare the experience of just doing what we've been doing, poking around Windows and configuration screens, I think my Intel Windows machine, I'm looking at this, like the laptop I use the most now that's running Windows, one which would not be a fair comparison is my Lenovo gaming laptop, but the Windows i5 laptop that I have, which is the Surface Laptop Go, feels a lot quicker so far. Todd says that the styluses are used to keep fingerprints off the screen. Really used aside from that. Yeah, I think if you're an artist or you're doing notes and stuff, they're really useful. But I just don't use it that much. Even though I have it, I'm like, oh, I should take notes, and then I forget to bring the pen with me. Or I forget to charge it, and I got to leave it on the side of the iPad until it charges up. Just says, so is this running Windows on ARM? It sure is. Battery life, they're publishing at like 22 hours or something. The weight is, let's see. Let me pull up the, I'm just pulling up my notes on the, so the weight on this, if we go down to the specs here at the bottom, Oh, it doesn't say what the weight is. We have to weigh it. Designed for mobility. Got the pen. I was looking through the specs that they sent me here. I don't have the weight handy. Let's see if I can find it. It's very lightweight. It feels like it's probably, it's 2.85 pounds. So that's pretty light actually. It feels a little heavier than that, but I'll have to weigh it. 2.85 pounds to kilograms. So it's about 1.29 kilograms. Do you all remember that X1 Nano we looked at recently from Lenovo? They got it down under a kilogram. That thing is light. And it was a nice computer. I really liked that one. That was running Intel, by the way. Red Hornet wants to know, is there a way to open email on the Chromecast and Google TV? I think you could probably download if you're talking about the Chromecast with Google TV, you could probably download an email app for it. We got more updates here, so we'll carry on with this. I'm sorry, everybody. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I like to walk you through my process. So sometimes you just have to do a lot of these updates. And this is not a fault of this computer. I am not blaming HP for this. This is partly my fault because I should have selected the dev channel from the get-go. So we're almost there. And so what we're doing here is we're loading on a beta build of Windows, and I think it's a pretty big lift, if you will. All right. 2%. I promise, though, I'll keep the stream going until we get a benchmark run on this thing. Michael Kidd said, I should try to see if I can, maybe I can try to get parallels going on my MacBook again and see how it compares. Spike Blighty enjoys the live streams. That's great. Yeah, so what we're doing right now, just so everyone knows, is that, so here's the deal with Windows ARM. So Windows ARM has native ARM-based applications, which run with the ARM architecture. And then by default, right now, out of the box, it will run 32-bit Intel applications. But if you have a 64-bit Intel application, then you have to switch over to the insider build of Windows, which is what we're doing here. So we had to download that up. First of all, we had to update it to get everything up to date. Then we switched to the dev build. We had to download the dev build and then install that, which is what's happening now. And then after it's done installing, we should be able to at least load up one of our benchmarking tools and see how it performs. So that's what we're kind of doing here. And Ed says, I'm glad to see that the struggles are, yeah, this is par for the course. So typically, when we do review a computer, there's a lot that, my reviews are not like, as in-depth as like Notebook Check or somebody like that does. But you got to set everything up. You got to run the updates. You got to do the driver stuff. So it takes a while to get everything put into place. So Jake will spend, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes just getting a computer run through all the benchmarks, getting the screenshots recorded for the gaming stuff that we do. So it does take a while. And Zorian is enjoying this and also watching. Sorry, I forget, for some of you, you're in other parts of the world here, so you're watching the Eurovision Song Contest on TV and me on the other one. And I would love to know if anyone saw anything interesting on the Google I/O things. I'm going to tune into that a little later. But Michael says it's a whole bunch of nothing. So nothing new. I think the pandemic separation combined with the lack of parts is making this really difficult. So V7 Tech, I believe, if you check the pinned comment, I've got all the specs there, including the resolution, which is 1920 by 1280. An excellent chef says, would these be good for general use? Yeah, I think that's what they're kind of aiming these at. I like to call these like the CEO's computer. You know, you want something super fancy. So that's kind of what they look for. Davis wants to know, does it have backlit keys? Yes, it better for that price. Dava wants to know, how often do I use the Microsoft Laptop Go? I use it a couple times a week. It's, you know, whenever we've got something to demo that has Windows on it is when I'll use it. And then occasionally, if my MacBook is upstairs, I'll slide the Windows computer in where, you know, on my computer that's in front of me here. Oh, this is interesting, I would say, that they're merging Google Wear with Samsung Tizen for better Android smartwatches. That is interesting. They probably discovered there wasn't a big enough market for two different OSs, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, if you have a Samsung watch, does it only work with a Samsung phone? And it's kind of funny, too, because Google Wear never took off the way the Apple Watch took off, right? Like everybody who's got, not everybody, but the Apple Watch has been much more of a successful product. And it doesn't do as much, right? Well, maybe it does now, but we'll have to see. Sanskrit wants to know, am I using Starlink right now? No, we're on my regular connection. Yeah, I bought Starlink as a backup. But I've done streams from Starlink before. We did one in Vermont, and it works pretty good. Not as good as a landline connection. We've said that before. But I think generally it's a good technology, and it's just at the beginning. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, I was hoping to see a little more resolution on this display for the price point. You can definitely, I mean, when you look at displays all day long like I do, you can definitely tell the DPI is not as sharp. Yeah, and this is an update, Lance, so it's a big Windows update. So I don't know if that's the fault of the processor or if it's just the extent of the update that's getting installed here. So hopefully we'll be ready to go in a few minutes here. An excellent chef says, should I get Starlink? Here's what I say to people when they ask me that question. If you have an internet connection from a wire that's good, then you don't need Starlink. What Starlink is for are for people that are like my brother who have just a horrible DSL connection where you don't have any other option that works for broadband. For those folks, it's a game changer. For me, again, what I bought it for is so I live in an area where whenever we get one of these big windstorms, we're out for a week. So my intent was to get it so that when we're out, I can put the dish out in the backyard and keep working. Because the last time this happened, we were out for over a week. I got my power back before I got the internet back. So if I have one tree take out the fiber optic line from here to the head end 6 miles through the forest, I'm done, I'm out. So that's why I got it. My brother got it because he had no other choice. And it's, you know, they call it the better than nothing plan, which I think is a good description of what it is, but it's really good for being better than nothing. And if you take a look at my videos on it, I think you'll get a feel for it. But I would say is that if you have decent cable internet, unless you really hate the cable company, then I think you're probably better off on your wired line connection. But I think for a lot of folks that don't have that option, that's where I think the strength of Starlink comes in. Aaron loves Google Wear. He's got a Fossil Wear OS right now. Watch right now. I haven't done much with Google Wear. I looked at the Motorola ones a while ago. I kind of liked them, but they were too big for me. I like the smaller, the Apple Watch a little smaller. Joseph's asking, why don't we see new Windows tablets? I think when they moved away from Windows 8, I think that kind of killed the tablets to some degree, didn't it? You see a lot of 2-in-1s like this one, but that's it. Camera res, I think, is 720p on this. I have to double check that. And again, in fairness, like the reason why this update is taking so long is that we're installing some beta driver stuff. So this is not the typical user experience, because this is like a bunch of beta code that's getting loaded in here. So it's going to take a bit. Hopefully, we'll get that up and running. We'll have an idea as to what this thing will do for performance. But we are starting to run low on time here, so hopefully. Hopefully we'll be able to run something here before it goes to the end of this. It is 26% now, so it's getting there. But again, this is what you have to do if you want to run the 64-bit Intel stuff. Spike Blighty says, I hope that Starlink will shake up the industry. I think it's going to. I don't know about the pricing because Starlink is rather expensive at the moment. But what I am noticing is everyone kind of jumping ahead a little bit faster, at least in my area. So I'm in a weird area because I'm kind of rural, but I'm kind of not rural. Like I'm like rural suburban, I guess is the best way to describe where I live. So we have, where I am, we're in like 2-acre subdivisions. It's kind of spread out. But the phone company finally got their act together. They're out of bankruptcy. They're doing fiber optic in different parts of town, not where I live, of course. Comcast decided not to implement the data caps. T-Mobile and Verizon now offer 5G to the home. Now, I can't get any of this stuff at this location, but it's available nearby, like within town you can get it if you're in the right part of town. But I'm in the wrong part of town, so I can't get that stuff. We're at 47%. We're doing another reboot here. Looks like that must have been a video driver that just went through. This is a big, whatever it is, it's a big update. So Todd Kleinhardt wants to know who would run anything other than 64-bit Windows nowadays. And that was my big knock against Windows 10 ARM before, which was that a lot of the stuff that I wanted to run, I couldn't. So, I'm hoping that they can really accelerate and get this 64-bit support integrated quickly, because I think that's what's holding back ARM from being a real contender on Windows. It's been a couple of years now. We haven't seen much. Hunter wants to know how fast is the charging. I think it's pretty quick on it. I haven't done a full charge-discharge yet. So we'll see what happens. YT Commentator is here from Nicaragua. Hello. Or hola, I should say. Ryu likes my tech. I like my tech too. Thank you. Ben says, do you think 300 down and 40 up should be expected one day? I think 300 down definitely is possible. The 40 up is questionable. I guess it's a matter of how it transmits. I was surprised that we were getting 20 up the other day. Oh, I see. So Tano says this is not a big update. So basically it's installing Windows from scratch is what he's saying here. So that's why, so we can roll back to the other one. So that's why this has taken so long. So this is not the fault of the computer. It's the fault of the fact that we're installing a developer build of Windows 10 on the Insider thing. But we're almost there. We're more than halfway there now, so hopefully it's going to be ready for us to jump in with gusto. Hey, Cyberpunk is on sale today for $48 on Steam. So Thomas Yamfang says that some people are getting that speed already. How about that? I haven't checked. I didn't see that. So I did receive a not so happy tweet from one of the editors there, who asked me to show him the goods on the Comcast ownership, and I said, well, it's private, so why don't you show me? Initially, he said, Comcast doesn't own us, Vox does. And I said, well, Vox owns Comcast, and they sign your check. So how much do they own? Let's be real here, you know? But no, this is, again, I would not fault HP or whatever. Like, this is all because of Windows Insider stuff is why this has taken so long. I mean, it could be that the ARM chip is not as fast as an Intel equivalent would be doing the same thing. That's possible. But, you know, you never know. Like, they don't optimize for installation speed on one of these beta builds, especially a developer build. Michael Kidd's got a good use case here. Yeah, once they get enough satellites up, you'll be able to do that. So right now you can't use it outside of the place that you are getting service. They're very specific about that. And that's part of the methodology issue that I had with the Verge review, because he said, well, I did take it out, I put it in the back of the truck and I went somewhere, but it didn't work there because you can't roam around with it just yet. You know, that's coming. But that's a great use case, and that's also why I'm holding on to the dish, because you know, once you can roam around with it, I mean, for RV owners, it's going to be a huge game changer. Oh my gosh. I mean, what a big deal that's going to be for RV folks and boaters and everybody else. And a astronomy observatory also equally good, right? You could even set it up and run it unattended if you wanted to. I mean, there's all sorts of great, I mean, you think about the fact that you've got a relatively portable dish that you can take with you anywhere. It's pretty crazy. And Mr. Fester is commenting on the Discovery purchase here. You know what, I was joking with somebody the other day. I said, you know, we always talk about the media, but now it's going to be the media because of all this consolidation. And what it is everyone's trying to compete. You know, it's like you have to be bigger. You have to be as big as Netflix and Amazon and Apple, and everyone's trying to be as big as they can be to be competitive because they're all hanging on there. And you know, the good thing is I think us consumers are finally in the driver's seat with this, because if we're not happy with what they're offering for content, we can leave. You know, with cable, you're paying for the stuff you don't watch. Ryu wants to know, does the speed of the SD card matter for games? Well, I would suggest not install, if it's a PC, not installing games on an SD card. I would get a portable SSD for that. But if you're on Android or something, I mean, you probably want to get a faster card, but it all depends on what speed the card reader in the phone is able to do. Wow, Michael's got quite a setup here. So Michael, where are you located? We should come and like do a story on your setup. That looks like it's kind of fun. And you know, I'm surprised, by the way, with like how fast this Starlink thing is moving. I never thought they'd get this launch cadence to where they've got it every 2 weeks. And it's actually been good for SpaceX on the operational side, because they've had to turn these boosters around a lot. And they're pushing them. They just did a booster that had its 10th launch and landing. Now I don't know what they're saving monetarily. That's still up in the air. Like, what's the actual cost savings? Because there's a lot of refurbishment that they go through. And they're turning them around pretty quick, but not like super quick. Not like airplane turnaround time. Yeah, so this is and the reason why, again, this is taking so long is that you're installing kind of like a fresh copy of Windows to get you onto the developer channel. So we're at like 90% right now. So hopefully very soon we'll be able to do and we're in the 2-hour mark here. This has been, we're getting our money's worth today. I'll let the boss know that I put in a good day's work. All right, we're almost there. %. We're in the ballpark. All right, we're getting there. Yeah, no, the boss is me. That's what I always joke with my friends. I'm like, my boss was making me work late today. My boss made me work on the weekend. But ultimately, my wife is the boss. And it's funny, my kids know that too, because like, I'll say to my kids, like, who's the boss of the house? They say, Mommy's the boss of the house. So I say, well, when I'm telling you to do something, I'm the representative of Mommy. So that's why it's got to get done. That seems to work with the kids. They kind of understand that hierarchy. And I'm totally fine with that, because if I was left to run this house, it would not be good. The kids would be up all night playing video games, like it'd be total chaos. And Dividian says, so long as that 10% doesn't take 90% of the time, like, yeah, right. Let's hope. It's at 89% right now. Connor said, no, it does not have an SD card slot, but it does have a headphone jack. So we're in the home stretch. So Metro North says, whenever I think of Starlink, the first thing that comes to mind is Subaru. Do they have a Subaru Starlink? Let me see, Starlink Subaru. Oh, that's in-vehicle. I didn't know that. Okay, that's what they call their in-vehicle thing. Interesting. So we had a Subaru. My mom had Subarus. We had a Subaru XT, which was an awesome little car. Back in the day, that car was like super unique. It had like really good aerodynamics, 80s angular stuff to it. Look them up on YouTube. And we did not have the turbo version. We had the regular one, but there was a turbo. It had an awesome like digital dashboard that was just so cool. And then they had like a turbo four-wheel, not all-wheel drive, but a turbo four-wheel drive Subaru XT, this little tiny car. That was a hot ride. And that was good stuff. And then we also had a Subaru wagon for a little while. Subaru had the best like digital dashboards for the 80s, I thought. Elvis Frazier is here. Happy Tuesday. Have you been? I've been great. I'm doing just fine. And yes, this has an NVMe drive. And you know what's interesting is that, and I put the link in the chat a while ago. I'll see if I can find it again. They have a teardown of the machine on the HP website. They take the whole thing apart so you can see how to replace all of the components. I'll throw that into the YouTube chat here. I was surprised that they did that. So if you wanted to see what it looks like inside, you can check it out there. So I thought that was kind of cool. And SE Scout Guy had a Subaru Brat. Those were cool too. All of those 80s Subarus I thought were cool. You know, they just looked neat. And we had an 83, was it an 83? No, it was an 85. We had an 85 wagon, a GL. And that was like right before, so I think in 86 they changed the design, because the one we had the 4 square headlights on the front of it, and they switched to that like single headlight design in 86, I think, 86 or 87. So we had the wagon, and then my mom got the XT, which she really liked quite a bit. We had 2 of those, actually. Eric says, does this laptop support native Windows apps? Yes, that's why we're going through this exercise, because out of the box, it'll support 32-bit Windows apps, but not the 64-bit apps. So when you switch over to the Insider build, which we've just done here, and look at that, we're actually in the computer finally. When you switch over to the Insider build, you can run 64-bit apps, but both of those are done in emulation for the Intel side of things. But the ARM apps run natively. So you can compile an app that will run across all the different architectures when you're designing it. But they don't really guide you to what is ARM versus what isn't. So it's kind of hit or miss as to what's going to be optimized for the computer when you get in there. Metro North has got a Ford F-150, a 2020, very nice, XLT. My sister has a fancy Ford. I think she's got an F-350, a big diesel. She's a horseback rider, so she has her horse trailer that she brings around with her. I like a good diesel pickup truck. Those things get good mileage, get that beefy truck sound. Although I really would like an electric pickup truck. Not that I have a need for one, I just think it's kind of fun to have an electric pickup truck. Okay, we're almost there. So now we are logging in. And that's my profile picture. Yeah, I don't know when I took that one. Probably like, oh, I'm on another computer to review here. Let's take a picture. Is the charger 3-prong? Yes, it is. You got a grounded outlet on there, Connor. Yep. Yeah, I did see that tech with Sean, that they do have an electric F-150 on the way. And I kind of like the notion of a traditional looking pickup truck. All right, here we are. Should we try this again? So we are on the beta build now for sure, because it's telling me that you get the little text in the lower right hand corner. And we're going to go boot up Steam. Like I said, we're just going to run the benchmark today. Maybe we'll try a game, maybe. We'll see how much time I have, because my wife is coming home with the kids soon, and I have to watch the little one while the other one goes to swim lessons. All right, so here we are. Okay, 3D Mark. Now I'm going to force the 64-bit version. But I will say that it's not feeling quick to me as I'm bouncing around menus and stuff, and this is kind of what I felt and experienced the last time we looked at Windows ARM. And it's one of those things where it works fine, but it doesn't work fast. And I suspect that's what we're going to see when we run the benchmark here. But let's not make judgments before we see what the output is here. But you can see just how slow it's rendering that window, right? Like that should not take that long. And Etsy Scout Guide is, yeah, actually people friend me all the time on Steam. Quite a bit, but it's okay. I don't have any friends that play Steam games, so it's kind of fun to have people that do. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's really slow, isn't it? All right, so let me go into benchmarks. And the one that I usually run is probably not going to be all that fair, but let's do wildlife first. And so it says, I'm unable to run this test. Why not? You need, okay, so we are running on a 64-bit operating system. Let's see if we can force it. Oh, so it says here we can't run wildlife because the Vulkan API is not supported. Let's install it and see if we can force it. This was the one I really wanted to run because it's cross-platform. So you can kind of do an apples to apples comparison. Metro North, great. You got your second shot. Excellent. Yeah, I would just be ready in about 12 hours just to take it easy. Because for me, I wasn't bad, but I felt like I was, not feeling well for a little bit. I had a little bit of a fever after that second shot. But I was looking at some numbers the other day. Like once you're fully juiced up there, you have a greater chance of getting hit by lightning than dying of COVID, which I think is the latest statistics there. So I think it's a pretty good odds there. All right, let's try. Hell, I can't run any of this stuff. So Time Spy won't run. So didn't we force it to run in 64-bit mode? Let's try this again. So it's like it's like Windows is not reporting that it's a 64-bit application. So I'm going to force 64-bit here, like we did before. I'm pretty sure we did that. Tomorrow's Fear gets the second jab tomorrow. Good luck. It's so liberating once you get past those 2 weeks. I went out for breakfast. It's good stuff. So Zoran had 37.5. What is that in? See, I don't do the Celsius here in the United States, of course. So I got to look that up. 2F. You're at like 99. Yeah, I was about 100 on mine. That's what let's see. I was at 37.7. But when I came back from CES, I had 104, whatever I came back with. All right, so let's go back to the benchmarks here. Yeah, it's telling me that. All right, so it won't run it. Okay, so we're going to have to do some more research on how to force that. All right, so let's try a game then. And maybe we'll do a little No Man's Sky here just to see if that will play. Although I'm pretty sure that No Man's Sky uses Vulkan also. So there may be a lack of a Vulkan driver at the moment. Yeah, Jim, I will definitely try to give you an assessment of my thoughts on this before we wrap here. I want to have something to show you. And this is like the same thing that I struggled with ARM Windows before. So, from the context of the review, one thing that I think Apple is doing a lot better with their switch to ARM is that everything runs. And here, as you'll see, it's a lot more difficult. So, like it's not seeing this as a 64-bit operating system, so I don't know how we trigger that for the benchmark. Yeah, it could be that we need to update the graphics drivers. I'll check the Windows update in a second for that. Yeah, so when I came back from CES, I had a 39.7 Celsius temperature. It was like almost 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I was in pretty rough shape. And I had that for a week. Like the second the ibuprofen wore off, I should have taken Tylenol, in hindsight. But once the ibuprofen wore off, it would go right back up to 104, 103. It was awful. All right, so let's see what we've got going on here. So it looks like it just disappeared. Let's try this again. I think it's just like crashing out on us. Yeah, it's just not loading. All right, so what else can we try? Oh, it's still downloading its... Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it just crashed. Okay. Red Dead, I think, is pushing it. Let's try Rocket League. We'll start there. This I know will work because we've run this in ARM Windows before. So let's try this one. Give this a shot. So Ben said, didn't we vote for another lap? No, actually, this was the one you all wanted to see first. So this one is, I guess you're teasing me there. No, I think you, if I look back on the results of that, this one had the edge. It was very close. Like all of them were pretty, like people were pretty, pretty close on all of the different things. But this one had about a 10% margin over the other ones. There was no 50% one though. Like there was no laptop that had a clear majority. So we could do a runoff maybe, but all right, let's try to run this. All right, that's not working either. I feel like I'm disappointing you all because I got nothing to show you here. All right, let's try, what else do we have in here? Someone I can download quickly. These are all my VR games. How big is BioShock Infinite? Let's see, let's install that on D. This will come down pretty quick, so let's do it on D. So we'll try something else here, see if we can get this to work. Yeah, but I will say, it's feeling just like, so the Steam interface here is a 32-bit Windows application, and it is super sluggish. And I was feeling that before we went over to the other build here too. And Frosty says it doesn't look like it supports Vulkan or any newer OpenGL. Yeah, so I think they still have some, they still got to bake this a little bit more, don't they? And Prime watched the weekly wrap-up. Yeah, I was just ticked off about how they approached that. Because they came in with like this opinion that and then they just said, oh, see that? I put it in my yard, it doesn't work. They didn't try to make it work. All right, so it is downloading it, but it's like, and the mouse is like all over the place here too. Yeah, I was really hoping that ARM Windows would have advanced a bit here, but it doesn't seem like it has. What I will try is maybe we'll do a part 2 of this stream. Maybe we'll try some Game Pass stuff and see if the Microsoft Store apps will be a little better. But I think we're not there on Windows ARM yet. Like if your intention was, let's load up some stuff and run it, that's not going to work. Elvis wants to know, in my opinion, hang on a second, I just want to get rid of some of our less than, in my opinion, why would you get a laptop with an AMD 4000 graphics or Intel's Iris Xe? So here's the trick with that. If you're in the market for the Tiger Lake Windows stuff, you need to get the i7 with the Xe graphics, because the i5 has less graphical cores than the i7 does on Tiger Lake, which is the 11th generation chip. The 10th generation, the graphics are very similar. So under that scenario, the i7 with Tiger Lake Xe, Iris Xe, G7 graphics or whatever, is faster than a 4000 series AMD. It's better graphically. But if you were looking at the i5, it's pretty close between the two. So I have not yet tested the Zen 3 AMD 5000s yet. So that's one I think that'll probably do a little better. All right, I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, something just refreshed. Yeah, it's now Steam. When you download a game from Steam, it is an involved process. Like it is decompressing on the fly here, so it's definitely running the CPU pretty hard. So let's take a look at the task manager here and see what we're dealing with. Yeah, it's not bad. It's about 31%. But my mouse pointer is like completely flaked out here. So we'll try this. This is an older game, BioShock Infinite. We'll see if that runs. And then I gotta wrap it up. But I think what I'll do in the review is I need to really focus a lot more on what does run on it. Because like if your thought here is like, oh, this is ARM is Windows ARM the equivalent of Mac ARM? And the answer is no. And wow, you guys are really, so this is, and I'm not taking offense to this question, but I think I've been asked now 4 or 5 times about the M1 iMac. I'm not getting one, so I'm probably not going to review it, just because I'm not going to do well. Like, the video won't do well, and I don't need one. Typically, when I review Apple computers, I'm buying one that I need to use. So we're not going to do that, because that thing is going to be reviewed like 6 ways to Sunday. So there's no way like my review is going to stand out against the flood of other ones that come in. There's actually 2 versions of calculator on here. There's this calculator. Somebody was asking about calculator. Gosh, what's going on with the mouse pointer? And there's also, oh, it's just one, oh, it's calendar and calculator. They look the same. Yeah, it is like really dogging here. So it feels like the Intel emulation, even at the 32-bit emulation, just doesn't feel like it's made any real improvements here. So I think if you stay within the realm of ARM, you'll have a good experience. But it's just not feeling, I'm just not feeling it. And I'm going to go back through too and see what they're running on these. Because if you want the battery life, you'll get it here for sure. All right, we're almost there. So give it another 2 or 3 minutes here, let this download, see if we can at least get this to run. Now, granted, this is not a gaming machine, so, but, people might want to try to run games on it. And that becomes something where you've got to think about it, like, okay, so can you play games on it? No. Can you do work on it? Yeah. What kind of work can you do? That remains to be seen, so we'll have to figure that out. Yeah, so this is exactly, and like there's so much hype about the iMac. Like I never do well with these Apple things. So what I do well with actually is the lower end Apple stuff. So I think my review of the AirTags will probably do okay. My review of the iPhone SE over the long haul's been doing okay. So like some of those things I do well with, but like the real popular Apple stuff, it's just you scream it into the wind kind of thing, right? Tooting into the breeze, however you want to put it. So good night. Sorry to keep you up so late. Yeah, we're just trying to get some kind of game to run on here. We'll see what happens with this one. And it kills me too because it's such a nice computer. I really like the design of it. It's just the ARM stuff is just, I thought we would be further along here. Now let's see what the processor temperature is. Can we see what that looks like? Just trying to see if I can get the temperature. I'm not seeing the temperature anywhere on this. It doesn't feel that hot though. It's staying pretty cool. And this was something too, Dom, that we definitely recognized on that MacBook Air, right? Like we were running some really, some of these games were running quite well. Although, to be fair, a lot of the games did not boot on the MacBook running ARM either. And I think it's probably due to the Vulkan compatibility stuff, right? Like some of the graphics issues. Because I remember that I couldn't get a lot of stuff to run. I know that I got I ended up installing the Epic Game Store. Actually, now I'm remembering this now because I spent a lot of time trying to find something that would run, because we ended up running Shenmue 3 from the Epic Game Store because it was hard to find something that would run at all, even on the Mac too, although maybe it's improved a bit. You know, Thomas makes a good point here, and maybe I should explore this, because I did a video. So I used to do a lot like more topics in my weekly wrap-up videos, and we used to take the topics and break them up into separate snippets channel stuff, right? We would take the snippets of the wrap-up and put that, we would put that on the snippets channel, and I got a bunch of views yesterday on lossless versus not lossless music. And it was all like one guy commented, you know, comment if you're here because of the Apple announcement. And I think that's a big deal. And actually what's most interesting about the Apple lossless deal is that most people who turn it on likely will not be taking advantage of lossless because they don't have the right headphones or speakers. If you're hooking it up to like your car's Bluetooth, it's compressing the audio. So even though you're outputting that, it's not going to be giving you the whole picture there. All right, this thing's still downloading here. I guess you can't play it early, right? You got to wait for it to finish downloading. Yeah, but this emulation, I mean, granted, this is not what it's designed to do, so we got to, you know, focus on that. But it's just, I thought they'd be further along with the Intel compatibility here. But you see what I mean? Like, it's just dogging here. Let's see. Here we go. All right, will it run after all this? If this doesn't run, I'm giving up, and I'm going to poke around more with it tomorrow. Because I want to have some kind of game run on it, because I know people want to run games every once in a while. Okay, so now it's doing its DirectX install here. Yeah, I'm not sure on the Linux stuff. I'm not sure if you can boot this into Linux. So that's another thing I'll have to research. But it's primarily a Windows machine. But I'm actually kind of excited about Apple Lossless because I had a Tidal subscription, but I canceled it. Because I just had too many subscriptions, and I was just like, I'm not using it. So, but I think it's great that Apple's doing that. And they can, because they have all this infrastructure. It's not hard to just flick a switch. All right, so now it's going through the DirectX setup. Almost there. Yeah, so it's just like this ARM architecture on the Windows side just doesn't feel like we're there yet. Okay, so this is loading, so that's an improvement. We have some screen issues here. The speakers are pretty good on this thing. And these are just movies, of course, that it's playing right here, so we'll have to get through all this. And it does not have an AMD processor in here. This is just the opening salvo from the game. Oh, did we just crash again? Yep. All right, one more time. We got a little bit further that time, but I think that's about, okay, here we go. All right, so now it's full screen, so that's an improvement. And Mike says he's been watching a lot of my laptop reviews lately. Well, stay tuned because we're going to have a lot of them this week. I got a pile of them that I have to get through. So I think it might just be all laptops all the time for the next couple of days. All right, so we got to where we got before, and it crashed again. All right, we're going to have to give up here, everybody. I got to get going. So we got to look for drivers. Yeah, so I'll start poking around and seeing if we can get some of these driver issues resolved, and I'll look for some other, I think we're up to date here. So we'll poke around a little bit, but it does not appear as though the Windows ARM thing has made much progress since we last looked at it, which was it's a big disappointment because we've seen the potential of ARM and what it can do on the Mac side. Oh, Smoke Monster. Smoke Monster's here, everybody. Does this have a 3080 in it? It has an ARM processor. That's all it's got. Oh, there are updates, but they are security. Okay, there is. Oh, so there is an HP system hardware update. So I wonder if that might be something that will help us. So maybe we do that real quick and see. I'm still good until the wife gets home. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm disappointed yet. I really got to look at. So here's what I like to look at with these things is, you know, what's the marketing? What are they marketing this as? Because I'm doing things that are not kind of the prescribed usage, and I want to be fair. You know what I mean? So it's disappointing though that the Windows, like it's kind of hindered by its processor in that on a Windows machine, you could load up stuff. It may not run all that great, but it doesn't crash, right? So we're going to have to keep playing around with this a little bit. So we'll keep messing around with it a little bit more. So I might pop back on tomorrow morning because I was hoping that by the end of the 2 hours I'd have enough to start the review with, but I don't think I am quite there yet. So we will probably come back to this, and I'll have it all updated. And if I get something to run, I'll come back and stream again and let you know what I think. Although it looks like we're almost done with this update here. I'm just curious if this system hardware update might be some kind of driver-related thing that might help us here. Because one of the things they sent to me with the, all the guide that they were putting together, was that, okay, so there's another update. Okay, so let's restart one more time. Let's just do one more thing, and we'll see if it comes back up after this is over with. Okay, installing device. So these are drivers. So this could be part of our problem. So what we'll do after it comes back is we'll try to do the 3D Mark thing again, and maybe that'll give us a Vulkan driver, although I doubt that. Todd wants to know what the boot time is. We're going to find out right now. The boot time will be a little bit off here because this is the beta channel that we're on, and that will be a little bit slower. But it's definitely not as quick as like a good, decent Intel machine that you pay the same money for. So there's your boot time. But I'll tell you what, though, I love the hardware. I like the design of it. That's what kills me. Like if they had put some kind of Intel thing in here, it would run better. Because it's really a different. It's a different approach to a 2-in-1, and that's what I really like about the hardware design here. All right, so I will say it's feeling, well, it's feeling a little snappier than it did before. All right, let's try this again. Let's see if we can get the benchmark to load up here. If it tells us the same stuff, we likely have the same problem. So it's feeling a little bit better now, right? It's not like moving, right? See that, like that delay there is happening again. So maybe it's not any better. So Galaxy Spirit on the Amazon chat says, I've never watched the stream, but I'm eyeing that Xbox Shock. It's a cool looking Xbox controller. Yeah, I was hoping to actually use an Xbox controller in the stream today to test out some of the games on this thing, but it's looking like the ARM, yeah, so Wildlife is still unable to run this test. Although Wildlife Extreme, it says it can run. Okay, ARM processors are not supported. Vulkan API is not supported. So what's this other one? This is, let's go back here. Yeah, it just feels super slow. When it's not running a native app, it's just, you can see the screen kind of drawing in, right? Now, Wildlife Extreme, it says it can run. And this runs at like 4K. It's weird that it'll run this one, though. Okay, so we're able to run something, so that's an improvement. Frosty says, try downloading the OpenGL compatibility pack from the Microsoft Store. Maybe we'll try that too. And I can also run this on my Mac right now. So this is Wildlife Extreme. I'm going to run it in unlimited mode here. And we'll see what the Mac gets versus the other one. Now it's possible this could be running as an ARM application. But that'll be okay. If it is, even if it is, that's okay because it gives us some window into what the processor is capable of. Now we're not going to see, so what it does is it renders this off screen, and I do this on purpose because this is the best way to kind of get the raw performance out of it versus having it just run with a demo on screen. But I'm watching my MacBook do this right now, and it's like, I wish I could show you this because this thing is like bloop, bloop, bloop. The MacBook is doop, 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 doop. So the MacBook is definitely processing this a lot quicker. And the MacBook is running the iPad version. So this is Wildlife Extreme. Roger P is here. Hello. Yeah, we're still cranking away. I think we're 2 hours into the into the effort here. What we're trying to do is figure out what runs on Windows 10 ARM. And we're not making much progress here on Windows 10 ARM. So what I will do tonight is I want to find a bunch of stuff that does run. And we'll kind of figure it out from there. All right, so Wildlife Extreme Unlimited on the MacBook Air. We got a score of 4,941. And we started the test earlier than we did on the Windows machine here, and it's still running on the other one. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to update my, so if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see what I'm updating here. So we're going to have a regular one, and then the extreme. And we'll just over one left, and we'll say FPS extreme. So the MacBook Air on extreme got 4941 and 29.6 FPS. And we got some new followers too. I want to thank Tico and Peggy for following. And we are almost there. Okay. Wow, that took a while. Okay, so. And again, I don't know if this was running native ARM or not. And that's an important distinction because it doesn't really say what it was running in. But the score we got here was 1528. Or, and it's got no data available, or 9.15 FPS. So it's running at about 3 times slower than the MacBook. And this is the Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2. Yes, I'm going to do a little bit more homework on this one. Because this is, again, it just kills me because I was hoping that Intel, that ARM would be further along and a little bit more mature. But it does not look like we are there yet. And so there is an OpenGL pack. It's what somebody said to me for me to look for. So let's look for that real quick. And I always thought what it would have been helpful for ARM Windows would be to have like a, a thing where it's like, okay, here's your ARM optimized apps, so you know what would work, right? Okay, OpenCL and OpenGL, is that what I want? Okay, this is what we want, yeah. Looks like it's going to map it. I can't imagine this doing well performance-wise. All right, so I'll play around with all this stuff tomorrow and get that going. But we have some more work to do on this. Okay. So that's where we're at. There is a lot more to do on this, and I got to figure out how to get something to run on it that we can demo. So that is the operation for tomorrow. So I'm going to do some homework, and we'll be back with more on this. And I'm glad I'm spending some time with this because it needs more time to really flesh out. And what I'll probably do is look for some ARM apps that can at least give us an idea as to how it works with an optimized ARM app. But it's something that I think I was hoping for a little more maturity on the ARM compatibility, which we're not seeing yet. So that's where we're at with that. Okay, well, everybody, I thank you all for hanging out with me today. This was very fun. And I might be back tomorrow. We'll see what my schedule is looking like, and we'll go from there. So I hope you all have a great evening and enjoy your evening. And I appreciate you all spending so much time with me today. I think we are doing we're almost 3 hours on this one. And we haven't gotten much to work on it yet. So we got some things to do. So great. All right, everybody, I will catch you all on the flip side. And thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.